Welcome to the show now, Republican Florida Congresswoman Cammack. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you today. What was your reaction to hearing about the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
Oh, stunning, honestly. We were shocked, and my husband, who's a SWAT medic, was next to me in the office on Capitol Hill. And unfortunately, social media immediately flooded with the video of the shot. And he looked at it with me in real time and just said, I don't think he survives this. And our hearts just broke. You know, I knew Charlie Kirk. I have done many, many events with Turning Point and have gotten to know him and his team over the years. They are on a mission. And what his wife, Erica, said last night was so true. If people thought that his mission was big before, just wait until they see what's coming. We cannot let hate become the new normal. This era that we are living in, angertainment, has graduated into a place where now all of a sudden people think that violence, political violence, and the desire to eliminate someone because you disagree with their viewpoint, it's not okay. But people, some, have decided that it is okay. So we have a responsibility now to stand up and push back and protect the things that Charlie stood for and fought for.
Well, I noticed in the press conference yesterday, they said, people say that words are violence, but that's not true. Violence is violence, but words can cut really deep. And both sides seem to be pointing the finger at the other, saying that, the other side is the existential threat and not their own side. What do you think needs to be done to reduce political violence in this country? How can we?
Well, certainly I think everyone, Republicans and Democrats, can agree that the political temperature needs to come down dramatically. We have to learn how to have the conversations once again. Instead of name calling, I can't tell you how many times, how many messages, how many death threats that I get as just a Republican, being called a fascist, being called a litany of different things that has no basis in fact. And it's because people choose to name call and throw out insults rather than have a debate. And I think that's really what was so special about Charlie and the Turning Point mission is he was going to campuses and he was having a debate. He was trying to have the conversation. But I think that there's a number of factors, social media being a big part of it, where people can go on and they can spout off and there's no consequences. People fail to realize that when you start impeding on another person's constitutional rights, in many cases trying to silence them, shut them up, censor them, that's when that becomes a no-go area. But we have to get back to having that conversation. We are all Americans, and we have to start seeing our actions as such, not Republican versus Democrat, but as Americans. Right. And so I think that is one thing that we can all do, and collectively, every single leader in the country, and I have, unfortunately, some colleagues who have decided that they were going to continue to villainize Charlie, they need to speak up and speak out loudly that violence is never acceptable in this country, ever.
And look, we've seen a lot of clips resurface of adversarial, back and forth that Charlie Kirk would have with individuals during his tour, where he was doing these "prove me wrong" segments, where he would speak. He would invite the other side to come to the microphone, and they would have a debate. Some would call it a healthy debate. And Charlie Kirk, look, he was this controversial figure, but he seemed to really believe and really amplify the importance of this political debate and openness to talking about the issues and people from the other side. We're going to go ahead and play something that he said on this very topic last year.
When people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
Is that possible in this divisive climate?
I don't think we have an option to be truthful. If we continue to go down this path where, and you see it in the statistics, the data proves it, people are more isolated and lonely despite having more accessibility and ability to connect globally. People are turning more and more inward. If we don't keep the conversation going, if we don't continue to try to establish a sense of community, and quite frankly, many just need to go touch grass, right? And pop away from the screen for a minute. If we don't do that, there are nothing but bad things that can come of that. I agree wholeheartedly with what Charlie has said. And so we have a lot of work to do in just starting the conversation back up again. I've been working tirelessly to try to bring some of those real issues to the forefront, many of them in a bipartisan way. And of course, the big thing that's looming that no one's talking about is the mental health crisis in this country. This is clearly a very disturbed young man who decided it was okay to assassinate a political leader. And I think that that is something that has to be addressed. The mental health crisis that we're facing in this country needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed immediately.
Yeah, and you talk about touching grass and getting out there and enjoying nature. These devices, initially when social media kind of came to the forefront with Facebook, folks were, getting in touch with their high school mates that they hadn't seen in years or decades sometimes, but they've actually somehow made us even more isolated. And then all of these violent video games that have just been coming to the forefront, and yeah, they might have some warning label on them, but what are they really doing to this next generation? And I just can't help but think of Erica Kirk, the wife of Charlie, the widow of Charlie Kirk. And she spoke last night about the heartbreak that she and her family are going through. Listen to this.
She goes, "Where's Daddy?" What do you tell a 3-year-old? She's 3. I said, "Baby, Daddy loves you so much. Don't you worry. He's on a work trip with Jesus, so he can afford your blueberry budget."
I think every family can relate to that. My small kids eat lots of fruit too, and people joke around about that. Everybody seems to be able to relate to some aspect of what's going on and what her family is going through. The photos that Charlie would post on social media, his kids' faces were always turned. He was very protective over them. Are we at the point where families of political activists and organizers, political leaders, both parties, do they need to be worried about their safety?
Well, first, I have to say that clip that you just played, it really hits home. I just don't know where she found the strength. And we're all fiercely praying for Erica and their children and the entire Turning Point family. That just broke my heart, especially as a new mom with a 4-week-old and someone who consumes a lot of blueberries. My husband and I actually, that quip really did kind of hit home. But to your point about protecting political figures, I can tell you very candidly, in the last 2.5 months, I have received 53 credible death threats. People who say they want to come kill me, my husband, my child. It is a very, very scary time for people in the public eye. And we have countless conversations, my husband and I, about how much of our personal life and our new daughter, Augusta, how much are we going to share of her with the world? Because it is scary, because people, again, there have been very little consequences for people's actions. And I think that's a big missing element, is the personal responsibility that people should be taking for their words and their actions, certainly. But I can't tell you how many colleagues I've spoken to that say they're done. They're going to retire. They're going to pull back. They're not going to be doing as many public events. These are real lives that people are feeling are at risk. And I know for me personally, having been the subject of many, many death threats, it's real, it's scary, and it is going to change the ability for us to have the conversation in our community because of this type of outrage and this type of culture that we're living in right now.
I'm so sorry to hear that you've gone through that with all of those death threats. I mean, over 50, that's incredible. And we know you're not the only one, and it's happening to folks on both sides of the aisle too. We've got to wrap things up, but I also wanted to tell you congratulations. I think one of the last times I interviewed you, you had just announced your pregnancy. So congratulations on becoming a new mom.
Oh, thank you. Being a parent is the best. And shout out to all the parents who are in the newborn trenches right now.
Yeah, those hormones are wild. I remember them well. Republican Florida Congresswoman Cammack, thank you.